Today, we become legends.
Patch OB3 for Smite 2 is launching today. Here's everything you need to know in terms of new gods, features, balance changes, and more in a quick digestible format. Okay, so first up we have skins and cosmetics, where these 5 cross-gen and classic skins will be launching in OB3 and either available for purchase or given to cross-gen owners on their launch. The Wandering Market is also launching with OB3, which is a new cosmetic system that lets players grind for cosmetics within collections. Each collection will last roughly 2 months and has 4 pages of content, with 1 god skin on each page, as well as other cosmetics like trackers, jump stamps, classic skin tokens, ascension pass tokens, card frames, and more. You earn Wandering Market coins by gaining XP, which is acquired in the same ways as account XP currently, by playing matches and completing daily quests. You then use those Wandering Market coins to buy the cosmetics from the collection. Each collection will last indefinitely, so you don't need to worry about making sure you grind everything you want before the next collection launches in 8 weeks. You can always go back and finish getting the stuff you need with your remaining coins. The first page of each collection will always be free, but the remaining 3 pages will only unlock if you've paid to unlock the full collection, which starts at 1300 diamonds. Considering the amount of content you can theoretically get for these if you're willing to grind it, I think that's a pretty good deal, especially if you want at least 1 skin from any given collection. Both skins are priced at around 2400 diamonds, so you're almost getting a half-price skin as well as access to other cosmetics if you want them. 2 new ported gods will be launching in OB3, with Rama coming on launch day and Achilles coming a week later. Rama is mostly the same but has a couple of +1 changes going into the sequel and is launching with an aspect. The +1s are that his 2 now automatically picks up nearby dropped astral arrows on use, and you can now track on your passive meter when you will generate your next astral arrow. The aspect to Rama is a pretty crazy one. Astral strike is now permanently active, and you reload astral arrows with a short animation when you run out. You can also right click or the console equivalent to reload whenever you like. Achilles will be coming about a week into the patch cycle, and his +1 changes are aimed at making his choice of armor or no armor more relevant to his entire kit. His 1 now gains bonus damage or a longer stun based on armor. His 2 gets a protection shred effect when hitting enemies from behind with the 2 active, or a physical damage shield when activated based on armor. And his 3 now gets a faster dodge speed or a slow on hit based on armor. Achilles will also be launching with an aspect that aims him more at the jungle role, allowing his 3 to gain the bonus dash when hitting jungle monsters with the projectile and increased strength scaling, at the cost of his 2 no longer providing protections or CCR. Speaking of aspects, Sol and Amaterasu are also getting their aspects in OB3, with Sol's trading her passive strength, attack speed, and basic attack damage for intelligence and ability damage, aiming her more at an ability-based intelligence burst damage playstyle. While Amaterasu's aspect makes her 1 no longer switch stances, only ever providing the red stance buff, and no longer heals on use when activated. But instead, she gains movement speed, haste, and basic attack power for a short duration, aiming her at a more damage-heavy playstyle. Moving into balance changes for OB3 though, first up we have a returning item from Smite 1 in Mantle of Discord, which will function basically the same way it did in Smite 1, granting both kinds of protections, cooldown, and AoE stunning enemies, and making you CC immune when you drop below 40% health. With how bursty the meta is in the late game for Smite 2 right now and how quickly tanks die, I think this will be a very useful item in a lot of tank builds. Teko Kage and Gem of Focus no longer require mana to use their effects, so they will now work on Thanatos and Yamoja, but will still be excluded from extremely low cooldown abilities like Ula's Stand Switch or Pele's 3. A round of intelligence buffs are coming this patch as well, with Divine Ruin getting 20 more int, Chronos Pendant getting 15 more int, Conduit Gem and Sands of Time both getting 5 more int, Spear of Desolation now provides 10 cooldown rate in addition to its other stats, Staff of Myrden's active cooldown is going from 150 to 120 seconds, Jade Scepter is now 300 gold more expensive and loses 50 health but gains 40 intelligence, and finally Soul Reaver is getting some big changes, going from current health damage to max health damage and now scaling from 0.5% of your intelligence, much like Heartseeker scales with strength. Reaver also gains 20 intelligence and a 200 gold cost reduction in this patch. Hunter's Cowl and Leather Cowl are getting some changes, removing the base attack speed but increasing the passive attack speed aura, while also adding base lifesteal to both items and a lifesteal aura to Hunter's Cowl only. Some tank items are also getting buffs in OB3, with Glorious Pridwin gaining 10 of each protections, and the shield now scales at 100% protections rather than 80% before. Spirit Robe also gains 10 of each protections and 30% CCR for 6 seconds when the passive effect procs. Mystical Mail gets a 150 gold cost reduction, and Shield Splitter gets 150 gold cost reduction as well, and a faster projectile speed, and the projectile will now pass through and damage all enemies rather than stopping at the first one hit. Essentially, it now functions much more like Lifebinder. Gilded Arrow and Sharpshooter Arrow are getting some shifts. Gilded loses basic attack power, passive gold bonus, passive attack speed, and the mat cooldown is increased, but it gains 10 base attack speed on the item itself. While Sharpshooter also loses the basic attack power, the gold gain effect now only applies to kills and assists. The increased basic attack damage at far range now only applies to enemy gods, not things like structures and jungle bosses. The basic attack damage bonus itself goes from 15% to 10% as well, but the base attack speed on the item has been increased from 10% to 15%. Lifebinder is getting a very small nerf to its base damage and healing, probably won't change too much. And finally for items, Hussar's Wings gets a 700 gold cost increase from 3,000 to 3,700. Wards have also been adjusted with their reveal radius being decreased to match Smite 1, but their target radius has been increased to match the reveal radius. Moving on to god changes for OB3 though, first up, Amaterasu gets more base attack speed, a stronger attack speed buff on her 1, and more intelligence scaling on the damage reduction for her 2. Anher gets more base damage and scaling on both Impale and Desert Fury. Kabrakan gets across the board scaling increases for both strength and intelligence, as well as a lowered cooldown on Seismic Crush and more protections from Refraction Shield. Zeus is getting a shift aiming to nerf attack speed ADC Zeus, but buff ability-based intelligence Zeus. His passive damage increase on basic attacks goes from 20% to 15%. Chain Lightning's cooldown goes down by 1 second. Thunderclap's attack speed has been decreased by 5% at all ranks. Detonate's base damage has been lowered, but its scaling has been increased, and Lightning Storm's intelligence scaling has also been increased. Vulcan is also getting a shift this patch with his thermal mod that provides increased damage to his 1 and 3 now having more base damage and scaling. His Masterwork mod that provides AoE protections from the Thumper turret has been nerfed from 10 up to 50, it's now 10 down to 30. Earthshaker's intelligence scaling has been increased, and Vulcan's aspect protection buff has been nerfed from 2 per level to 1.5 per level when nearby his turrets. And finally, for god changes, we have Medusa, whose acid spray is getting nerfed in both base damage and scaling, and Petrify's cooldown is being increased by 10 seconds. And finally, we have some general gameplay changes for OB3. Titan and Phoenix targeting rules have been updated to better match Smite 1. Pause the video if you want to read the full description of these changes. An unequip button now exists for god card loadouts, so you can take things off without directly replacing them with something else. You can now view your wallet tab on the in-game profile to see your in-game currency. You can now enter practice mode with selected skins. A context ping through VGS and minimap has been added, and ranked requirements have been raised to level 10. In Conquest, all bosses have had their max level raised, meaning they will scale in difficulty for longer and won't max out as quickly in a match. For Joust and Duel, the Lost Knight structure stun now lasts 2 minutes instead of 1.5. Phoenixes now have less base power and penetration, and for Duel specifically, they have disabled Lifebinder and decreased base strength across the board by 15%. And finally for game modes, Amanita Charm, or the Mushroom as most of us know it, is now disabled in Assault. Hopefully this quick patch day recap has been useful for you in terms of a refresher on what's coming for OB3. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.